Let's go. The Eagles got a major break ahead of the Vikings game, but that's not even the best part. Meanwhile, the unpredictability of the NFL keeps getting crazier, and it just changed plans for one of Philly's expected trade targets. Now, the other news is that the Birds got an unexpected update when it comes to Jalen Carter, and so did Minnesota for their starters. In this video, I'll get you caught up on that, share the best picks and plays for the game this weekend, and go over all the other storylines you need to keep an eye on. So let's talk about it, but first, let's run it.
Do your job. Don't look at anything else, just dominate your box, and everything will take care of itself.
What's up, guys? Do me a favor, drop a like on this video. Things just dramatically changed for the Eagles ahead of the Vikings game. One of those things having to do with the injury report, which I'll get to, but the other facet being the status of Cincinnati Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson's availability following Joe Flacco's jaw-dropping performance to win the icy hot bowl versus Aaron Rodgers. After all, before the game, Hendrickson was strangely made inactive due to a back injury. And it didn't take long for NFL insider Ian Rappaport to share that the Bengals' premier pass rusher is expected to be a big-time trade target, with Cincinnati hoping to get a young player and a future mid-round pick in order to facilitate a trade. Plus, put two and two together from outside reports, and the Eagles have been and were expected to make a play for Hendrickson. It's just that after knocking off the Steelers in prime time, the thought of shipping off Hendrickson isn't as realistic for Cincy anymore. Or at the very least, the urgency to make a move isn't quite what it was.
The price just went up.
Look, it may be crazy for a team that's 3-4 without its starting quarterback until like mid-December to not be sellers at this point. Except, do you really think after Thursday's performance of 342 yards and 3 touchdowns from Joe Flacco that the Bengals are just going to pack it up and punt on the rest of the season? I mean, one glance at the standings and they're only one game outside of the playoffs and one game from jumping Pittsburgh for first place in the AFC North. Something that is objectively hilarious when you hear Mike Tomlin's reaction to Browns GM Andrew Berry helping a division rival.
Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
That's gold right there. Like, bro, sorry, but if you think Joe Flacco going to Cincy is more of a problem, that honestly tells you more about your squad than Cincinnati. All I can say is sometimes a change of scenery helps. Because in only 10 days with the Bengals, Flacco has already thrown for more touchdown passes than he did in 4 starts for the Browns. Once again, Thursday just reiterated this, but the only thing predictable about this NFL season so far is that nobody knows anything.
None of it makes any sense.
Like I say, unfortunately, if you were on the Trey Hendrickson to Philly hype train, you can probably get off of it for a little bit. However, there is good news for the Eagles, though, and that's the fact that the Miami Dolphins are visiting the Cleveland Browns in a 1-5 showdown to very realistically put the final nail in the coffin. Like, honestly, they both will very likely become sellers regardless, but whoever loses this one will have to come to terms with what they are.
We suck.
Bradley Chubb or Denzel Ward. Make a move for one of them or maybe both. That being said, Week 7 is going to tell a whole heck of a lot about the Eagles. Especially with as much hype as we've heard around some self-scouting that took place during the mini-bye, the tweaks they've made, and how much the offense actually believes things are going to turn around.
Some alignment and some structure to kind of galvanize that and get it in the way and get it in the direction that we want it to be.
Can't say that I'm surprised by this, but a lot of that sentiment and optimism has been met with quite a bit of debate and doubt.
We suck.
We don't suck.
Okay, no matter how you feel, the defense is markedly better when Quinyon Mitchell's on the field. And almost in miraculous fashion, Q was able to get in 2 consecutive full practices this week after suffering the hamstring injury last week against the Giants. So how about hitting the like button for that one? Because with guys like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the other side, the Eagles without question needed Q to be a full go. I mean, the CB2 spot will always be a concern, but maybe this is the game that ultimately gets Howie Roseman to pull the trigger and bring in Denzel Ward after having to watch how much Kelee, Ringo, and Adoree Jackson hurt the pass defense. Or the other thought is that Isaiah Rodgers rubbed salt in the wound for what could have been and if Howie Roseman had signed him to the Eagles, and we have to deal with that. Speaking of, and if you've been following anything on this channel, you kind of already knew this, but beat writer Ed Cracks recently shared that Howie actually did prioritize signing back Rodgers and that they would have at least matched the Vikings offer. But the part that was unclear is Rodgers or his management didn't exactly give Philly a chance. Although again, if you've been following or anywhere on social media, then you know Zay responded to say, don't believe everything you hear in the media.
When you have the success that we were able to have last year, you want to, it's hard to say bye to guys. It's always hard to say bye to guys, but that's the reality of this business.
Minnesota Vikings versus Philadelphia Eagles. I'm trying to make the game bigger than it has to be. It's not Isaiah Rodgers' revenge game or anything like that. It's all love, for me over there. And I know it's vice versa. Me, the fan base, me and the front office over there, everything's still cool.
Did they have interest in retaining you and just things happen really fast and that's how you ended up here in Minnesota?
Yeah, no, they definitely, that was the only team, I was, conversating with at the time. It was back and forth for a couple months, but, I ended up here.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly straightforward about matching because Zay wanted to be on the Eagles. For the record, I can't share exact specifics, but let's just say there's other ways around showing or telling someone they're a priority outside of just financial commitments. Which is why I can't really fault Zay for choosing to go with a system that guaranteed him a starting role and a chance to continue in the right direction for his career. Now sure, hindsight's 20/20, and at this point, CB2 would have 100% been his by now. However, it'd be hard to say that Zay's regretting that decision too much since Minnesota has been the toughest pass defense in the NFL. And that's based on EPA per play and nearly every other metric as well. By the way, we're not talking about a small margin here. Heck, the gap from the Vikings defense to the number 2 team, the Houston Texans, is the same distance as the gap from the Texans to the 8th place team by that metric, which is the Colts. Okay, sorry, I get it. A lot of math there. Analytics can be confusing, but basically what it boils down to is that the Vikings are insanely good at limiting the passing game. And that's thanks to Minnesota defensive coordinator Brian Flores playing the most cover 2 in the NFL as he employs his aggressive style of zone coverage and blitzing. Better way to describe it for you, they are highly varied and unpredictable. Which unfortunately, that's not the best recipe for success for the Eagles trying to find answers through the air. Or at least it's not if they continue the trend they've been on. Because while Jalen Hurts has made a drastic improvement against the blitz, the Eagles' offense as a whole ranked near the very bottom versus cover 2 and just zone in general. So let's just say it's definitely going to be a tough task on the road in Minnesota.
You smile and accept the challenge. Smile and accept the challenge. And that's how I've always looked at it.
That right there is the positive energy we're going to need if we're going to win this thing. So do me a favor, drop a like, good vibes, positive energy, and let me know in the comment section who the first touchdown scorer in the game is going to be. Because as always, if you get it right and the Eagles win, then I'm going to spin for one lucky subscriber to win any jersey of their choice at the end of the game stream on Sunday. By the way, cool giveaway here, but if you can run this video up to 5,000 likes, so again, drop a like on this video, Underdog, the sponsor of today's video, is going to make sure that that jersey that you win becomes any autographed jersey of your choice. So one more time, hit that like button, let me know who the first touchdown scorer will be in the comments, and then come hang out during the game stream as we pray for the Birds to get back on track. Now for me, I'm going to stick with Saquon Barkley to be the first touchdown scorer. Because believe it or not, the Vikings have only given up one touchdown of more than 10 yards. And heck, even the ones they've given up have been really short throws or runs in the red zone. Of course, having said that and given the unpredictability of the NFL this year, it's probably just going to go ahead and happen that A.J. Brown scores on a bomb for a touchdown for the first touchdown score, but I'm going to stick with Saquon for the win. Which is also what you can do when you sign up with Underdog, because right now as one of the official season-long sponsors, you can get $100 in bonus funds when you play $5 and get additional gimme picks. All you got to do is scan the QR code or click the link in the description and use code PHILLYSPECIAL. Also, we're currently in the middle of Boosttober, meaning Underdog is giving out boosted payouts every single day during the month of October. Plus, better yet, to tip off the NBA season, there's a site-wide KD gimme pick you don't want to miss. Now, when it comes to our plays this week, I'm going to be honest. It's not been a great season so far. Much like the Eagles, it's been impossible or almost impossible to predict what they're going to do. I mean, they've been predictable in offense, but in terms of like who's going to show out, and the offense has not been scoring well. But I'm doubling down this week. Saquon Barkley, the only way they get this done, especially Brian Flores' defense, is Saquon Barkley over on the rush attempts. So give me 16.5 rush attempts. That's going to happen. And then A.J. Brown, got to take him here with the target total because 6.5 targets. I mean, you kidding me? You got to be having 7. He's had over 8 targets. I mean, since week 1. Week 1 was terrible against Dallas. But since week 1, he's had 8 or more targets every single game.
They do a lot of coverages. They mix up. They got a good front, and they play extremely hard. They punch the ball out. So, our work is cut out. We're excited. I'm going against Isaiah, which is my friend. So it should be very fun.
Yep, just makes me feel even more confident about that. And then we do have to pick an opposing player. Justin Jefferson, you kind of got to go with it here. I'm not sure about the receptions necessarily, but he's going to get targeted like crazy. So over or higher the 7.5 targets. He's had 11 in back-to-back games. I think that one gets it done.
First time for them to come in our home, so we definitely got to give them, a sense of what it feels like to be in our stadium with our fan base, our crowd noise. But it definitely will be great just to get out there with, of course, a championship contender team. They won last year, so it's definitely great for this team to go out fast with that confidence to get this dub.
Anyway, feel free to let me know what you think of those picks in the comments, and good luck to those of you telling. There's also a link in the description if you want to roll with the same plays. Remember, I say it all the time, but get signed up with the best option in fantasy sports. Scan the QR code, click the link in the description, use code PhillySpecial, get $100 in bonus funds. I realize I'm telling you nothing you don't already know, but the ground attack is where the Eagles have to win the game. Heck, Minnesota is 25th in rush EPA and 24th in yards allowed at 132 per game. Plus, when you look at their size or lack of size, combined with bad angles from safeties and their edges not keeping contained, they've got real problems. Case in point, they got absolutely ripped apart against the Atlanta Falcons on the ground, giving up 218 yards there, good for 5.6 yards per carry. Which, okay, fine, you could say the Falcons are a good running team, but the Steelers aren't. Yet even Kenny Gainwell was able to get the running game going for Pittsburgh in their Week 4 matchup with 99 yards, 2 scores, and a 5.2 average. Which, again, is why I went with the picks that I did, or certainly for Saquon Barkley, because if the Eagles run the ball, they stick with it, they stay committed, there's no reason they can't have success.
I think if we establish a run game, that'll take care of everything. And like I've said, the last couple of weeks, we're either one block away or the execution just isn't there.
You watch the game, we're so close in so many spots, and there's a lot of good stuff you can take away from it. But at the end of the day, you want to teach on all the bad stuff and get that stuff corrected and fixed. We just want to, when the play call is made, we need to execute and do well. And you got to check your box off and do your job.
If you go back and watch this week's press conferences, this is probably the most optimistic that the offense has been over the last 3 to 4 weeks about figuring things out, adjusting, and making things work. And honestly, maybe no one more than Saquon, who said he loved the meeting the offense had and the mindset they're going into. Plus, when asked if he thinks the Eagles will find their identity this week, he said he doesn't necessarily want to give away too much scouting info, but he's looking forward to getting back on track. Which, okay, even though he didn't say it, Brian Flores and everyone else knows what to expect by that.
I think we know what type of player Saquon is. A.J. Brown, Devontae, the tight ends, the O-line. I mean, look, they're the defending champs. I think I'm going into this as, I'm not really looking at the numbers, just the history and the talent that's there. So the explosiveness that's there. So I'm just, we've got a big challenge ahead of us, and I can't speak to why, what's going on. I'm expecting their very best effort, and them at whatever their highest capacity is. I think that's what we're going to get.
Okay, the guys have been banged up, sure. The injuries certainly play a factor, but also, I don't know if they're trying to do too much or putting pressure on themselves. If they just do their job, that should be more than enough. Just saying, we don't need any hero ball. Although, on the other hand, when it comes to Minnesota, I wouldn't mind continuing to see that from Carson Wentz, as it looks like he'll be getting the start over J.J. McCarthy, who's still battling back from the ankle injury. Now, for the record, the last time Philly played Carson, they sacked him 9 times and went on to win 24-8. Of course, back then, he was holding onto the ball much longer, yet getting into Kevin O'Connell's offense has actually gotten him to be one of the quickest in the league at getting the ball out.
Do a good job running this offense. This is a good offense we're going against. It's a good scheme. It's packaged well together. They do a good job of calling plays. It's a tough offense.
I can appreciate some praise, but let's be real. This will be the worst quarterback, the worst starting quarterback the Eagles have played all season long. And even if you're buying into some slight improvements for Wentz this season, he still has the same old pocket presence issues pop up multiple times a game that leads to a sack or a mistake. That's the reason that Wentz has been sacked 12 times in 3 games. So yeah, you add that in there with a banged up O-line and Jalen Carter ready to prove the critics wrong, we better see a multiple sack game.
We just got to get back to the basics, and that's what we're doing right now. And we ain't even going to think about last week, we're going to think about this week. Like I said, we played them again, so when we play them again, you can say what you have to say after that score. But, we just worry about this week. We got the Vikings.
Don't sugarcoat it. I mean, he's been awful. I mean, I haven't seen anything.
Straight from the hip. Shoot it from the hip, then. Shoot it.
I mean, I'm just telling you, like he hasn't made one play. He hasn't shown any violence out there. He doesn't look like he's in great shape. He's a guy that had played last year. In a couple of games, he played every snap.
Every snap, yep.
Yeah. Every snap. Like, you don't see defensive tackle. I mean, you see Max Crosby doing the edge. You don't see tackles do that.
Yeah.
And he played every snap in some games last year. Whether he had to or not, he did.
Yep.
You don't see the conditioning. You don't see the violence. You don't see him splitting double teams. Like he hadn't done anything, in my mind, to, he was an ascending player. We thought he would be a dominant player. He doesn't look anything like that right now. So I don't know what's going on there, but he's not been the same player. Now, I know the shoulder's been bothering him, the heel. He looks like he's a little chunky, so the defensive coordinator's kind of called him out on that a little bit. So there's a lot of time to get going here, but he needs to get going soon because they need him to be really good, to be anywhere near a good defense.
Almost like I had a bye week. I'm off, I didn't play, and I'm back this week, so I got more rest time, etc. But, I'm ready to play.
Good to hear about the shoulder, yes, but then the unexpected part is that after being a full participant earlier in the week, JC's had back-to-back sessions as only being a limited participant with a heel injury. And that's the thing, whether it's been conditioning, the shoulder, or the heel, the Breadman hasn't been able to get right, with the official injury report listing him as questionable for the game on Sunday. Now, thankfully, all the other guys outside of Grant Calcaterra got in full practices, and everyone should be good to go except for maybe Landon Dickerson, who's also questionable, which I'll talk about more in a second. Meanwhile, though, on the Vikings side, there's a ton of question marks. Count them. You got 6 guys listed as questionable. Granted, the Vikings did technically rule out J.J. McCarthy unless they have to go to their emergency third-string quarterback. But then you have 2 starting offensive linemen uncertain in Michael Juergens and Brian O'Neill, along with interior defensive linemen Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins and linebackers Blake Cashman and Tyler Batty. However, out of all that, the biggest loss has got to be the fact that the Vikings won't have edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel after the 30-year-old was ruled out with a neck injury. So yeah, given the impacts of that, the final injury report for both teams and what it could mean for this weekend's game, I had Eagles writer Anthony DiBona join to preview that and all the other storylines to keep an eye out for.
Well, it's a little scary because, like you said, he was a full participant on Wednesday, and then the last 2 days he's been limited. And I know he said earlier in the week that he was going to play. He told the media that he's going to be good to go. But at the same time, just look at last week where he wasn't on the injury report at all during the entire week and then popped up with the heel injury. And then who knows if it was MetLife Stadium. That's why they held him out. But hopefully he's good to go. And this could be a good matchup for him to be available because the interior of that Minnesota offensive line, even though they've been banged up, they've allowed quite a few pressures over the last couple of weeks. I mean, Malik Collins and Mason Graham combined for 8 pressures in week 5, and then Keanu Benton and Derek Harmon combined for 7 pressures in week 4. So if there's any week and kind of a get-right game for Jalen Carter in particular, this could be it.
Everyone knows we could use it more than a lot of other facets, right? The defensive line, take advantage, some pressures, turn those into sacks. Real quickly, though, too, because Landon Dickerson was the other questionable on the injury report. He got in a full practice. Not to put you on the spot, but I'm probably going to do this here. Percentage-wise that you think, I guess for both guys, percentage-wise chance that they play, Jalen Carter and Landon Dickerson?
I'm actually leaning I would say like 90% chance that I think both of them play because I just feel like the Eagles got punched in the face so badly last week that they thought maybe they can buy themselves some time and allow these guys to rest a little bit more with this schedule ahead of the actual bye week. But after what happened last week, I don't think they can afford to just let these guys kind of heal up. Hopefully this extended kind of break from Landon Dickerson helped him as well, and Jalen Carter too. So we'll see what happens.
Get the running game rolling, the pass rush active, try to negate some things that Brian Flores is going to do. He won't have Andrew Van Ginkel. That is one official. So we can go ahead and say that. He's not had him for multiple games. So as good as their defense has been, it's not like, oh my gosh, they don't have a premier player or whatnot. So it's going to throw everything off. But there are questionable guys out there. Shout out to the Vikings department for 14 players, I believe, that you had to insert on the Philly Special Show.com if you want to go and check that out. Anthony's got the injury reports and updates, but doing a little extra work, putting in some overtime there. Thoughts on Andrew Van Ginkel being out and all these other questionable guys?
I mean, it was very frustrating, and I texted you that to keep adding all these players. It seemed like every day they were giving another veteran a rest day. It was like making this chart even longer for me to kind of input on the website. But I mean, like you mentioned, Andrew Van Ginkel's been out since week 3, so not too much of a loss there. Their defense has kind of adapted since then. But they could be getting back Blake Cashman, who hasn't played since week 1. And he's one of their best defensive players. And a lot of it has been made about Minnesota's struggles in their run defense. Blake Cashman coming back could help that a ton. And then they're also potentially getting back both Donovan Jackson and Brian O'Neill along the offensive line. So those are 2 guys that haven't played since week 3 and week 4, respectively. So I know a lot's been made about their offensive line struggles, but this Minnesota team could look a lot different on Sunday.
Well, hopefully the part that we don't see that's different, you were sharing this before the game, before the recording here, but just talking about the game, The Vikings are susceptible to giving up a lot of sacks, and you hear that combined with Carson Wentz, who's going to be getting the start, playing against Philly. I don't necessarily say that we're going to get 9 sacks, especially seeing what we've done this season, but that was how much we had the last time that Wentz was playing against us for the Commanders. But talk to me a little bit about the pressure rates, the numbers, areas of weakness maybe that the Eagles can exploit as far as the Vikings offensive line.
So Jimmy Kempski actually shared a pretty funny video as a compilation of Carson Wentz this season, and has his pocket presence gotten any better since he's gotten older? But it's pretty much the same thing. He lets that one rusher get past him, and for some reason he thinks that guy is just completely out of the play now, and that guy ends up coming back and getting him. So in the 3 starts that Wentz has this season, the Vikings have allowed 12 sacks, and you could argue who's at fault for those. But even going back before Wentz came in, when J.J. McCarthy was in at quarterback, they've allowed 21 sacks this entire season through 5 games, which is the second most in the NFL. So it's not just a Carson Wentz problem. It seems like it's a Vikings problem overall, and this could be the get-right game for the Eagles pass rush.
Feels like we've been saying that for a lot of games, but like you're saying there, the second most, they've got some injuries they're dealing with, and we talk about the quarterback. I'm not going out there and saying hey, let's pick the Eagles, or go on underdog and pick these guys to get sacks. It's not feeling that way yet. We got to see them do it for multiple games, but hopefully so, and they can help get right. Matchups as far as that's concerned, we normally do it every single week, but on the offense, you got a couple guys that keep an eye out for?
Yeah, the biggest matchup, and it feels like, especially coming off this mini bye week, is trying to see if Kevin Patullo and Jalen Hurts have made the necessary changes to this offense, especially going into Brian Flores, because if you look on paper and on film, it's just Brian Flores basically does everything that the Eagles have struggled against in recent years, and especially this season. A lot of zone coverage with cover 2, the sim pressures, the blitzes. Flores kind of does it all, and he doesn't necessarily lean too heavily into one thing. I think what makes his defensive scheme so tough to prepare for is how multiple he is, where he doesn't just have to blitz you every time. He doesn't just have to sit in cover 2. He can kind of mix it up. He'll make his man coverage look like zone coverage. And given that Jalen Hurts has struggled to kind of identify this stuff pre-snap, as well as the offensive line, identifying the protections and who's going to be coming, who's going to be dropping in coverage, this is going to be a huge matchup for that. And then another thing that you have to kind of watch for, and I know it's been a hot topic this week especially, is Isaiah Rodgers playing. He's starting at corner on the outside for the Vikings.
Oh gosh,
he's going to be guarding either A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith probably most of the time. He plays primarily outside, and he's been one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL this season statistically. He's only allowed 96 yards in 5 games, according to Pro Football Focus. And obviously that second cornerback spot's been a hot topic in Philadelphia, but it's going to be an even harder discussion if Isaiah Rodgers has himself a day against the Eagles.
96 yards. 96 yards. That's like a game's worth of what we've seen it sometimes. Certainly 2 games worth, but like a game's worth over the entire season. Yes, and I talked about it earlier here in the video. The Eagles did make an offer. We can debate on it. I think we talked about it even in the last recording. We could debate on it as far as, was it matching an offer? Was it close to it? Was it not even in the same ballpark? Who knows? I get the idea that, and again, there's some speculation here, but I get the idea that it was more of just Kelee Ringo. There's some favoritism or talking through what responsibilities he may or may not have. And at the end of the day, you look at it, absolutely would have loved to have Zay here in Philly. He wanted to stay with the Eagles, but you got to take care of yourself, and not the worst decision considering how he's played so far and getting the NFC Defensive Player of the Week, 96 yards as you mentioned. I just hope and pray that it's not if Zay comes up with a pick, right? I'll cheer for him any other game. Please not this. This is the one week where I would love to see, A.J. Brown, 9 catches, 130 yards, a touchdown. Just torch him, right? Just take advantage of it. I don't know if we're going to see it necessarily, but this would be the one game where you'd absolutely want to.
Yeah, and it's going to be, obviously the Carson Wentz storyline right now that we know he's starting the game. Then Isaiah Rodgers starting at cornerback. Javon Hargrave is one of their starting interior defensive linemen. So
that's right, yeah.
It's quite a few different former Eagles that might have an impact on this game. And if one of them has a great performance, it's going to be the talk all over Eagles social media. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
100%. Speaking of matchups to watch defensively, you already kind of threw out there the difference for the Eagles on that side, but Eagles defensive matchups, any keys there?
Yeah, so I already talked about Isaiah Rodgers and that second cornerback spot in Philadelphia, so it's only right to talk about Adoree Jackson because he'll be the starter probably, and Minnesota's going to figure out a way to get Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison matched up on him in unfavorable situations for the Eagles. So I've been defending Adoree Jackson. I think he's played a little bit better than he's given credit for. I know he's been given questionable effort at times against the run, which is fair. But in coverage overall, I do think he's done a better job than expected. But this is a totally different test. I mean, this is one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of handle that situation. And then we talked about it already, but the Eagles pass rush versus Minnesota's offensive line. I know they could be getting healthier this week, but the Vikings have allowed at least 3 sacks in all 5 of their games so far. And guess what? The Eagles haven't had more than 2 sacks in any of their games so far. So
none.
Once again, for the millionth time, like you said, it feels like we say this every week, but this should be a get-right game for the Eagles pass rush. But will it actually happen? We'll see.
Gosh, it better. We're about to get into the score predictions, and I already know what's coming in there, so just buckle up. Pleased with the sacks. Just get home, get the pressures. This is the quarterback, like we said. There's been so many games where you could easily go, oh, yeah, they should have had 3, 4, 5 sacks. Just get the quarterback down. So focus on that. Jalen Carter mentioned it. Multiple defensive guys mentioned it over the course of the week. They're trying to make a concerted effort. Thankfully, we at least have Q who will play, because if it was going to be Kelee, Ringo, and Adoree Jackson, I mean, my gosh, we'd already be terrified. The idea of Adoree out there matched up occasionally on Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and you would say this too, like it took a little bit for Carson Wentz to get some, confidence built in with Justin Jefferson, but the past 2 weeks he's targeted him 11 times in each game. So I think the targets are going to be there. It's like, look, you got to just try to serve as best you can. I mean, double team will probably a little bit, bracket cover, whatever we need to with the safety help. Just Adoree, please hold up just enough. He doesn't have to be locked down, but I would take a 5 catches for 70 yards type of game, right? We would just live with that 100% if he can do it. So we'll see. Not the first touchdown score, though. We got to start out good. Got to start out strong with the Eagles. Get on the board first. Get this thing rolling. We need some momentum. We don't need what happened in New York. So first touchdown score prediction, who you going with?
Well, good news in that regard, because the Vikings have allowed their opponents to score the first touchdown in 4 of their 5 games. And 3 of those 4 touchdowns were rushing touchdowns. So for that reason, I'm going to go in your lane usually, where you go with these kind of chalkier picks. And I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. I think this could be the game where they've talked about during this mini bye week where they want to get this run game going and they want to lean on what they do best. And what better way than to start the game with a Saquon Barkley touchdown?
I'm all for it. I mentioned it earlier in the video, so we're in lockstep. So this is good, but like I said, I kind of already know where this is headed. We talked about it in the live stream. You referenced it before we brought this up here. Saquon Barkley first touchdown score. Score predictions a little bit different.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to upset everybody, unfortunately, but
in the stream, just in the video, like this is it. You don't need to hear any more of what Anthony's about to say.
My confidence is. I'm at the point where the Eagles just need to prove to me that I can pick them. If I can't pick them to beat the Giants, then how can I have any confidence in this team going on the road against the Vikings, against Brian Flores' defense, who does everything that the Eagles struggle against, like I mentioned. So I have the Eagles kind of starting off hot, but like we've seen, they kind of falter in the second half. Brian Flores is going to make his adjustments. Kevin Patullo and Jalen Hurts might not be able to get things going in the second half. And I have the Vikings hitting a late field goal to win 27-24 over the Eagles.
Gosh, man. We all hope you're wrong. Let Anthony know how wrong he is right now in the comment section. Or you can let me know how delusional I am to continue to pick the Eagles. I really hope that we're going to bounce back. And that's terrible because it's literally hope. Like, it's probably more hope than confidence right now, as you said, for all the valid reasons and the others that we discussed as well. But it's like, I'm going to say Eagles 24-20. I know that's not enough scoring for people, but we'll absolutely take it with the way Brian Flores defense, everything else there. But 24-20, they get the job done. Saquon scores first. We hold on for dear life. Just enough. Justin Jefferson, Carson Wentz, maybe like a late game sack to seal it. I know it would be anxious, but we'll take it however we can get it. A win is a win. I don't care how it looks, especially in Minnesota. So, yes, I will be taking the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I hope all that happens. Like I said, it's just my confidence level is so low.
It's fair.
After the last 2 weeks. So just prove it to me, and then next week we can revisit this.
We will see. All right. Well, everybody else, let us know your thoughts, score predictions, first touchdown score, drop in the comment section. Again, if we can get this video up to 5,000 likes, the jersey giveaway during the stream turns into a autographed jersey So courtesy of Underdog, scan the QR code, use code Philly Special, $5 in play, get you $100 in bonus bets. Shout out to Anthony, the Ant-Man. Follow at DiBona NFL, all the updates, insights, news, everything else for the Eagles. And we'll see you guys. Go Birds.
Like